Hey guys, welcome back to the Always in Season podcast, episode number 26. Week 4 is in the books. The season's already moving too quickly. It happens every year. You wait all this time and it just flies by. So, we'll first jump right into the Week 4 breakdown. We'll start with Thursday Night Football. Cowboys Giants. Cowboys won 20-15. This was a closer game than I think it should have been.
Yeah, and Dak had a really nice game. He was 22 for 27, 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. But neither team really had a rushing game. And Malik Neighbors had another great game until he got hurt.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people believe that if he hadn't gone out with a concussion, that when it was close at the end, Malik would have been the go-to guy, and they could have won that game. Yeah. Like it was anybody's game, I believe. Now, Aubrey actually missed the field goal, which really gave the Giants life at the end. But Daniel Jones hasn't thrown a touchdown at MetLife in over 600 days. Which is rough. I wonder how many quarterbacks have in that same time span. But yeah, I mean, and then Robinson had 71 yards, but I believe he had a few costly drops. From what I was watching, I thought he didn't play the best game. It was very up and down for him, but the Giants D overall played well, but their offense couldn't quite outlast the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, Malik Neighbors, we've already seen through 4 weeks, he's looking to be very promising, but like you said, Aubrey missed a 50-plus yarder that basically they were 30. I mean, they could have went and scored pretty quickly if Neighbors was there, but no offense either way for either of these teams, and it was, I think, closer than Cowboys fans would have liked.
Yeah, and Jake Ferguson also had a good game, but CeeDee Lamb showed up more than he has this season yet, which was nice, I'm sure, for Cowboys fans to see. But then also it was the Giants, so it's weird because we still don't know who the Giants are, and we still don't know who the Cowboys are either, because I think people had more hope for the Cowboys this season than the Giants, for sure, and they should be a playoff team, maybe a Super Bowl contender, where the Giants was they'll probably miss the playoffs, be a top 5 draft pick, but the Cowboys don't look scary at all. They're kind of reminding me of the Bengals, even the Eagles. It's who are you? What is your identity? Are you, because you're not scaring anybody right now. Right. Next up, Bengals Panthers.
So Bengals won 34-24. They finally got a win. Finally. This was kind of a close game up until half, and then the Bengals pulled away. But yeah, I think the big story was the Bengals finally got their first win, and the Panthers kind of came back down to earth a little bit, but they still look pretty decent.
Yeah, Burrow had a good game again. Overall, it's 22 for 31, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Chase had 3 receptions for 85 yards and a touchdown. And then Brown and Moss had a bit of a run game going, nothing crazy yardage-wise, but Brown did have 2 touchdowns, which was the tough runs kind of thing, and really helped seal that win. But Dalton did have a pick, but he was 25 for 40, 220 yards, and 2 touchdowns as well. And then Hubbard had a really nice game for them, which I think if Hubbard can continue to play well for the Panthers, especially while Dalton is quarterback, I think that can really help the Panthers be in games, because they were totally in this one until the end. He had 18 carries for 104 yards and a touchdown. Deontay Johnson and Xavier Legette both showed up, which is nice. I mean, the Panthers, you can see some identity with them, you can see, the bones of it,
It's just finding that,
It's actually getting the wins. And then we'll talk about it later, but they did have a tough injury break on the defensive side of the ball, which is unfortunate because it's the lead of their defense. But the Bengals are looking more in sync, but they still don't look scary.
Yeah. Next up, we'll do Buccaneers-Eagles. Buccaneers won 33-16, jumped out to an early lead. Never really looked back. Their offense was phenomenal, 445 yards of offense, and just the Eagles had really no answer from the jump.
Yeah, and Mike Evans was great, and the Bucs' offense was great, and that just seems to be a theme. If he's playing well, they're playing well. If he doesn't, they're not. Yeah. But yeah, Baker was dialing it up, especially in the first half. I mean, I don't know who you have for your game ball, but obviously he would be a contender for an offensive player of the week.
Definitely.
And he's honestly right now, I think, one of the MVP candidates too. At least when it comes to the quarterbacks in the league, which has become a quarterback award. But yeah, the Eagles, there's so many question marks, and I think you really have to ask, they're looking more like the second half of last year than the first half of last year. They haven't come back. Saquon's looking good, but
we have
that's about it.
It's expected. I mean, it's just I think people are finally realizing, at least with the Eagles' offense, that Jason Kelsey did a lot there. Like Jalen's good, but Jason Kelsey ran that offense very well and was a big part of that, and they're still trying to adjust without him there.
100%.
Next up, kind of a sloppy game. Broncos beat the Jets 10-9. This was kind of a big shocker. It was a really rainy, like sloppy game. Rodgers did not look good after looking pretty good last week. He looked pretty bad. Bo Nix didn't look great either. He had 60 passing yards. I couldn't believe that when I looked at the box score. The Broncos defense had 5 sacks. They outplayed the Jets defense, and then it ended with Greg Zuerlein missed 50-yard game winner.
Yeah, it was a great defensive game, I guess. But yeah, like as Roger said, if your defense holds the team to 10 points, you have to win those games 100% of the time. That's true. Rodgers didn't sound happy with the offense or even Coach Saleh after the game. He's never happy after a loss, and this one was a pretty bad one. Definitely one they should have won. Breece Hall couldn't get anything going. Like their run game was just awful. And Breece Hall is a huge part of their offense performing well. And Braylon Allen, for that matter. But yeah, the Broncos were nothing impressive, but they were less pathetic than the Jets, enough to win. Yeah. And Hassan Reddick not playing is honestly showing for that Jets defense. Their pass rush is not there without him. And we'll also talk a little bit about that because there's some rules that we learned about him and the rumors of him going back to the Eagles. Yeah.
Next up, kind of a big shocker. Colts beat the Steelers 27-24. Richardson got hurt again. He kind of got a little bit of a hip stinger and ended up leaving, I believe, in the first quarter. But then Joe Flacco came in and kind of like steadied the boat. I guess Colts went up 17-0 early, and Flacco was able to keep the lead. And that Steelers defense looked pretty bad early on. They did.
Yeah, and they did say that Richardson, if they needed him, he could come back. Like, so it wasn't like
he might miss a week.
But it's more about like making sure he can be healthy, fully healthy. But he's not. It's not like something serious. Joe Flacco, certified dog right there. The Steelers defense, they just didn't have the same identity that they have been. I think the Colts played them well because they're prepared for the Steelers pass rush, and that's been winning the Steelers games. Yeah. The Steelers' offense didn't look awful, but it's like they took too long to get going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Next up, the Texans beat the Jaguars 24-20. This was close the whole game. Dario Gumbawale had a game-winning touchdown with 22 seconds left, but this was the best the Jags looked, so I guess maybe that's promising for them, but they still are winless.
Yeah, it's another frustrating outcome for the Jaguars, and they're the only team that doesn't have a win this season, 0-4. Now people are questioning, Doug Peterson. They're questioning paying Trevor Lawrence. They're questioning the organization. Like, all of it. It's really rough. They had a chance in the game. Trevor was 18 for 33, 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. Stroud was 27 for 40, 345 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nico Collins was definitely a star in the game. But yeah, I mean, the Texans are inching closer to looking like who they were last season, but they're still not there yet. I think if you look at these two teams, the Texans should have won even more decisively.
Yeah.
Now it is a division game, so sometimes these things can, happen. But we'll see what they look like against the Buffalo Bills next week.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. The Bears, they beat the Rams 24-18. Caleb looked better, but a big part of that was they finally realized you have to run the ball for the pass game to work. The Rams, again, just horribly injured already. They're just like, no, Cooper Kupp didn't play. He's not going to play this next week against the Packers. There's just McVay is not dealing with a whole lot. He's making something out of nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, it was kind of a sloppy game. It was really a higher score sloppy game. Yeah. And I mean, the Rams is tough because they have such a good team and such a good organization, great coach, but the injuries are just too much to overcome. And I think the Bears defense is better than some that the Rams have had to play against, and so when they have those injuries, when you're without your 2 best wide receivers, it's just hard to overcome that. And I mean, the Bears offense did enough to win.
Next up, the Vikings beat the Packers 31-29. The Packers comeback fell a little bit short. Love did play. There was some timing issues, I would say, but I think overall the Packers, this is Love's first week back in a couple weeks. They'll be okay. I mean, the Vikings got out to a fast start. A lot went their way early on. and I think throughout the course of the game it kind of leveled out. But yeah, Vikings are 4-0.
Yeah, and I think if you go look back at film, especially in the second half, the Packers offensive scheme, they know how to beat this Vikings defense, where a lot of teams have been so lost. The Packers offense didn't look lost. They offensively and defensively, it was penalties that was really killing them, especially in the first half. But the Packers, I mean, I don't think anybody's putting like a worry sign on them because they've lost 2 games with a total of 7 points.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, they're in both games that they lost, and then the wins are pretty impressive. Now the Vikings are 4-0. They're looking really good. I said, since the offseason that people were doubting them, people saying they were going to be the 4th team in the division, that was just ridiculous and that was disrespectful to Darnold and this team.
Yeah.
And Brian Flores knows what he's doing with that defense. I think Kevin O'Connell is doing a good job leading this team, better than he has since he got there, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, Sam Darnold's been great. I think Sam Darnold's actually been a huge reason for this team's success. It's not like he's just being a game manager. He is making plays to win.
Yep.
And it'll be interesting to see how they do against the Jets.
Next up, the Falcons beat the Saints 26-24. Younghoe Koo hit a 58-yarder for a game winner. To be able to put your kicker out there for a 58-yarder and feel like really confident is very comforting.
I think every team feels confident in their kicker except the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking like 50-yarders are gimmies for some kickers now.
Really
but both QBs didn't really play well. No touchdowns for either of them. They both threw a pick.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was, for the Falcons, their offense came from Koo. Yeah.
Well, no, it was interesting, because neither Carr or Kirk had a touchdown, and then the Saints had 3 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
But the Falcons didn't have a single offensive touchdown. They had a pick 6, and the 4 made field goals, and that's how they won. And that's just such an interesting way to win, especially a division game. But I was happy the Falcons won because I think, unlike the Packers, where that's an example of a team where when they lose, I don't think people were going to jump on them. If the Falcons had lost, I think people would have jumped on them like, they're done. Like they're not good. Kirk needs to go. Whatever. They're winning that game. They have an interesting game on Thursday night against the Buccaneers, another division game. I think they're just going to continue to get better.
Yep.
They're going to be competitive, and they'll find ways to win even when their offense isn't playing great.
Yeah, and this Saints team kind of has come back down to earth a lot after that explosive week 1. But yeah, I think that division is shaping up to be
week 1 and 2.
Yeah, very, very good division, very close division throughout the season.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Next up, the Niners beat the Patriots 30-13. The 49ers defense finally showed up. Fred Warner, again, arguably, he's the best linebacker. You can make the argument for best defensive player in the league right now. Just phenomenal. Really, that Patriots offense, that they were exposed, and it was bad. Jordan Mason had 24 for 123 and a touchdown, but really the story was that Niners defense the Patriots could not move the ball.
Patriots offensive line is a mess.
It's
it
bad.
Really is, and I honestly feel bad for Jacoby Brissett. I was watching him, and I'm just thinking, if you put him on just a good team, or a team with a good offensive line, if you put him there, he would. I would not be surprised if he could lead a team to the playoffs at all. And so I'm sure that's frustrating for him, but it's also good that they don't have Drake May out there because I'm glad they didn't put the rookie out there in that situation because then he would have been thrashed. And also Jacoby Brissett knows not to make certain rookie mistakes. But yeah, I think the Patriots can still be in games and win games, but it was not their day. No, that's for sure.
The Commanders beat the Cardinals 42-14. Jaden Daniels played well again, and just to Cliff Kingsbury has Jaden Daniels so comfortable. He does not look like a rookie at all. There was just I think he only had 4 incompletions or something like that. The Commanders are 3-1 now, and that division again. Now people thought the Giants are good. The Giants are not great, but the Commanders could definitely, at this point, are looking like a playoff team.
Yeah, 100%. And the Cardinals, they came out to a quick lead, and then they got punched in the mouth, and they folded, honestly. But yeah, this Commanders team is so tight-knit. You can just see it. They are so together. They're playing for each other. They're feeding off of each other's energy. It's great to see. And what impressed me most about Jaden Daniels playing well was he just came off of a great game, And for a young kid to come off of a great game, that's easy to, like, go in overconfident or kind of be focused on, like, how well you played, and then to come out and kind of flop. But nope, he kept up with the expectations. He kept up with that hype, and yeah, he played great. I saw a post, and it was asking, all right, through 4 weeks of the NFL season, what do we know? And what I said is that coaching matters. That is what we have learned more than anything this season in the NFL, is that coaching matters. We don't know a lot about a lot of the teams.
Coordinators help a lot too.
Yeah, and when I'm saying coaches, I don't just mean head coaches. And any coach on the team, that it matters so much. It's so crucial. We've seen that across the league.
Yep. The Raiders beat the Browns 20-16. That Browns offense, it's bad. It's really bad. That offensive line is horrible. The Raiders had 11 QB hits, and I mean the Browns jumped out to a 10-point lead after the first quarter, and it was just not good after that.
Yeah, the Raiders are rattled with injuries, but still won the game.
Yeah.
And for me, like, it's actually interesting because Deshaun hasn't played bad. He's from what he's had to work with, I'm seeing a lot of, he's not able to get the ball with pressure, but then also drop passes. And now it sounds like Nick Chubb might be able to come back soon, which is very, very nice for them, obviously, since he's, the focal point of this offense. But Kevin Stefanski, I'm starting to very, very much doubt. And I liked him, but when you're having the same issues week in and week out, week in and week out, you're having the same exact problems, that's a coaching thing, 100%. And they just don't have the energy out there. And this defense is a solid defense. They have been solid for years. I mean, you're just not giving them anything to work with. And it's frustrating. But, yeah, good job to the Raiders. Gardner had a clean game, which is important for him, 14-24, 130 yards. And then Turner and Tucker got their rushing touchdowns. Carlson was 2 for 2. Raiders didn't look amazing, but they did enough to win. And, again, the no turnovers is what's huge for them to stay in games and win games.
The Chiefs beat the Chargers 17-10. Justin Herbert did end up playing. The Chiefs still don't look like the Super Bowl champs, but they're 4-0. Kelsey finally showed up. He had 7 for 89 yards. But the big story, we'll get into it later, but Rashee Rice did get injured.
100%. I think if Herbert was healthy, this game could have had a much different outcome.
He was not.
You could see his mobility was very limited. I was impressed with the offensive line overall. There were a few penalties, but overall, filling in for Joel, I think they did a good job protecting Herbert. But, yeah, I mean, like you said, the Chiefs still don't look like the Super Bowl team that we've seen. But they didn't last year, the whole season.
Right.
And they just show up at the right time and they're winning games. And, yeah, we'll see what happens with Rashee Rice. If they're going to try to bring somebody up, if they're, bring somebody new in, or if they're going to just work with what they have. And, yeah, I feel bad for that injury, though, because the injury was caused by Mahomes, actually.
After an interception.
Exactly, it was doubly caused by him. So, I mean, not on purpose, obviously, but that's just a tough one to swallow, I guess.
Moving on to Sunday Night Football.
Oh, good game.
The Ravens beat the Bills 35-10. The Bills looked pretty bad right away. The Ravens looked really good. Derrick Henry, 24 carries for 199 yards and a touchdown, and that we knew what the Ravens offense could look like with Derrick Henry, and that was a prime example of it.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens came out with their foot on the gas and never took it off. Derrick Henry, I mean, the first play for the Ravens on offense, they hand off the ball to Henry, and he runs right for a touchdown, completely untouched. And it was the longest run in Ravens history. Like, it was wild. And, I mean, you could see that the Bills, like, Josh Allen had a few of his Superman plays, and he looked great. And Josh Allen overall, I believe, from my perspective, had a good game. But their offensive line played really poorly. The Ravens' pass rush was able to get through.
Yeah, and then that Bills defense didn't help.
The Bills' defense didn't help. I mean, the Ravens were absolutely humming. Lamar had a really solid game. And, yeah, the Ravens just looked really nice out there. Bills not so much, and it's truly anybody's game every week. And we're seeing that, again. There's a lot we still don't know through 4 weeks.
Right. There were 2 Monday Night Football games again this week. The first one, the Titans beat the Dolphins 31-12.
Battle of the backups.
Yeah, no QB threw over 100 yards. Will Levis did end up getting injured. Tyreek only had 4 catches for 23 yards, but that Dolphins offense looks really bad without Tua. They have no identity without Tua.
And it's interesting. I saw an interview with Tyreek right before the game, and he was saying how we need to show up, we need to, do our best, ball out, whatever. Tyreek played awful.
He did.
He
hasn't played well.
When he was targeted, it was drop and drop and drop. Like, it was it was disappointing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, if I think Tyler Huntley, they can be good, but then it was like the first half, or even just like the first few drives, you could see like, okay, the Dolphins might be able to do this with Tyler Huntley, whatever. But when your Pro Bowl wide receivers are not showing up,
Yeah.
and then in the second half, the offensive line kind of gave out, and yeah, the Titans just kind of like kept feeling it more, and Mason Rudolph did a really good job in there. He didn't look incredible, but they're moving on offense, and that's huge.
The other Monday Night Football game, which was really entertaining, the Lions beat the Seahawks 42-29. Jared Goff was the story in this one, 18 for 18, 292, 2 passing touchdowns, and he caught a touchdown.
Yeah.
Also, the Seahawks, Geno had 56 pass attempts. That's really not, I mean, that's a lot of passes, and that's a lot. You should not be throwing the ball 56 times.
This game was really offensive heavy, and Seattle just got going too late. But yeah, the Seattle's defense looked really rough. Now, I mean, the Lions had clearly a good scheme, and they were being consistent. Clearly, Jared Goff was on his game, but the amount of times that they tackled, they thought that just hitting the guy was going to bring him down.
That Montgomery run was
multiple different players, multiple Montgomery runs. I mean, it was ridiculous. The Seahawks defense is why they lost this game, in my opinion. But the Lions looked really solid, I think. But again, I still feel like we don't know who either of these teams are for sure. Like, it's so interesting. But yeah, it was a fun game. It was a good way to end the week.
Yep. You want to go to game balls? Yep.
Yeah. For my offensive game ball, I do have Jared Goff, and I went back and forth on a few different players, but I mean, he had a perfect game, 292 yards, 2 pass touchdowns, a receiving touchdown, 18 for 18. I mean, you can't not give it to him, in my opinion.
Yeah, he was, again, there were a couple, like you said, but mine was Derrick Henry, 24 for 199 and a touchdown. I mean, this was basically him and Lamar were just driving that offense, and they couldn't do any wrong. But this was the first breakout game of Derrick Henry, and I'm sure we'll see a handful of more. So.
Yeah. For defense, I had Fred Warner. He had a pick six, and I mean, that's an impressive catch for a receiver to make. For a linebacker to make that, it was incredible, and then also running it all the way back to the end zone. But like, he is creating pressure, creating havoc on every single play, and he is reading defenses as if he knows their playbook by heart. Like, it's incredible. He's my favorite defensive player to watch.
Yeah, I had Fred Warner also. I mean, he just I love watching him play. He's just like he's easily the best linebacker in football, and the Niners are very lucky to have him. And when he has that defense going, like, they can really do no wrong on the defense. It's more like always kind of the offensive questions with that team. So
100%. For my coach of the week, I picked John Harbaugh. He got this Ravens team ready to go. I mean, ready to absolutely ball out. And I loved his halftime interview because they were humming. Like, it didn't look like they were going to lose to the Bills at all. Like, the Bills didn't look like they were competing with them at all. But he said, hey, this is a really good team, and we still have 30 minutes of football left to play. Like, he is never counting a team out. He always gives teams respect. And yeah, I mean, after a rough start to the season, for him to get this team super energized for a big game and, like, get them to play right. Like, I don't know. I was very impressed. I just think this Ravens team is more together than they have been all season. And so that's why John Harbaugh gets it for me.
Mine was Dan Quinn. I think just overall so far early in the season, he has that Commanders team very together. Cliff Kingsbury has been a great job, for maneuvering that offense and getting him and just Jane Daniels specifically to play every week. But I would say just Dan Quinn has that Commanders team. Like, his first year, like, right away looks like a completely different team.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So move on to fantasy now.
Yeah, for sure.
My top 3 performers, I did end up winning this week again. Jordan Mason had 24, Lamar had 23.64, and Malik Neighbors had 23.1. And then the one that just missed, the Niners defense, had 23 for me.
Okay, yeah, you had a lot of guys go off. For my personal best, Mike Evans was 23.4, James Conner 18.3, George Kittle 14.5. For the worst, Breece Hall, you crappy. 3.8. Kai had 6. Jets defense had 8, which neither of those are bad for a kicker or defense, but they just happen to be the lower scoring. But yeah, in the league, so like the best fantasy lineup you could have, Justin Fields is 31.98 points, Derrick Henry 35.9, Kenneth Walker 33.6, Nico Collins, 33.1. I mean, look at this.
Yeah.
I mean, people are going crazy. Jaden Reed at 27.1.
Yeah, another big one.
Tucker Kraft, also for the Packers, 17.3. DeAndre Swift, 29.5. Nick Folk with 23. He was humming. And the 49ers defense had 22 points, which is insane for a defense to have. Last week was the Packers 23. Like, we're seeing some defenses go off. And then for an imperfect lineup, Josh Allen, you had 7.3 points. Cameron Steele had 0.4. Breece Hall, 3.8. Momo Dunze had 2. Zay Flowers had 2. Mark Andrews, you put up a goose egg.
I'm about to bench him.
Kyle Pitts, you put up a goose egg. I'm glad I kept you on my bench this week. Jake Elliott had 2, and Bills defense, you had -1. So y'all sucked this week. No, I'm just playing. Yeah. But yeah, that was the imperfect lineup. But fantasy is always so fun to keep an eye on, and there's been some surprises this year, and I find it funny is how everyone picked up Isaiah Likely after week 1, and then he has not.
I mean, Mark Andrews hasn't done anything either. Well. So yeah, I got Mark Andrews. He's been on my bench. I'm not starting him until he shows up.
And the Ravens used to be so run and tight end heavy, and it's just kind of funny. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's it for the week 4 breakdown, and now we will do some weekly news, and then we'll get into week 5 preview.
All right. Next up, we'll just start our weekly news.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So Rashee Rice, what happened was Mahomes threw a pick. This was against the Chargers. He threw a pick, and then they started to return it, and then the ball got knocked loose, and it was possible, is this a fumble? Is it not?
Yeah.
But Rashee Rice had tried to go after it, and so did Mahomes, and Mahomes' helmet kind of hit Rashee in a really awkward way. Yeah. Rashee went down. You knew it was bad right away. Andy Reid was asked at halftime. He said it doesn't look good. Everyone assumed that he was out for the year, but then they did have... They need more testing. Yeah. They still don't know the extent of the injury, so we're not actually going to find out until next week what the injury fully is and how long he's going to be out for. But either way, it wasn't good, which is sad. I mean, he was one of the best players on offense this year. So
yeah, far. I mean, they already lost Hollywood Brown. It's just now it's just kind of he's going to be out. It's just a matter of how long, and then do you go and find a replacement? Or is Mahomes comfortable with the guys he has? It's just a big blow to their offense and just a really unfortunate injury.
But this is what they drafted Worthy for, right?
Yeah, Worthy again looks really good so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they already have Pacheco out for a few weeks.
Yeah,
so that's just tough. So quarterback Will Levis and then quarterback Anthony Richardson, both of them had gone out, and neither of them came back in. But it sounds like both of them could have come back in to the game if needed, but clearly they both won without their starting quarterbacks in there. But neither of them should be out long, if at all. At most, I would say a week for Richardson. Will Levis, we're still trying to determine. It was a very strange injury.
It was,
but when it's a throwing shoulder, that's really hard to...
Yeah, it was he kind of he dove and he landed on his shoulder, and he just was not comfortable throwing the ball, and they were just not ready to risk it. But yeah, like you said, both teams ended up winning without them. So
I mean, Will Levis already isn't accurate enough, with a healthy shoulder, so you don't want to put him out there. Panthers. This is the Panthers that Drew was talking about. Linebacker Shaq Thompson, who, I mean, this is the best season he was having, leader of the defense. He is believed to have a torn Achilles and out for the season. That's just a big blow for them. I mean, it really is, and big blow for him in his career. I mean, you're having your best season of your career and you go out.
Yeah. I mean, especially early on, and Achilles too. It's you have you're done for the year, and I mean, I get the Panthers weren't probably going to do anything, but again, to have your best year, he probably lost out on a good amount of money, and it really sucks.
Yeah. Some other injury update, I guess. So Christian McCaffrey, he has battled injuries throughout his career, and he went to Germany even to see doctors and to try to figure out the extent of his injury and how to help it and how fast he can come back. He has tendonitis in both of his legs. It's known as bilateral Achilles tendonitis, and it's not good. And this is more than just the player. This is the person. This is really not good for him to have for his lifetime. You know what I mean? And so we still don't know how this can all get healed up, but it doesn't look like he's going to be back soon.
Yeah, they did say one of the tendonitis is worse than one of his legs, which is why they only said one. But apparently the Niners knew this for a little while, and now it's just being announced. But yeah, like you said, there is not even a ballpark for timeline right now. It's like we got to figure out what's up with him and then uh, diagnose and treat. But it's like I mean, Jordan Mason's their guy for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. So the Cowboys defense, they have 2 star players and both of them got hurt in this game against the Giants, Micah Parsons and defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence. And DeMarcus Lawrence was officially placed on IR. We did know that his injury was going to be a little bit more serious, a little bit more long term. He has a midfoot sprain. And then Micah Parsons, it sounds like he, with a high left ankle sprain, is going to miss this first game of his NFL career on Sunday. It's a big blow for this Cowboys defense, and they're playing the Steelers, who, I mean, they're not a joke, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that's tough, but hopefully they can both come back soon.
Yeah, I mean, I found it shocking that Mike has never missed a game, for how great he is. But yeah, hopefully those guys will be back soon. Doesn't sound like Mike is going to go on IR. It might be a week-to-week kind of thing.
Broncos running back Tyler Beatty, I think is how they pronounce his name. He left the game, and it was really scary. I mean, he does have movement in his arms and legs, full movement, but he was kind of not like stretchered off, but it was like off in like a backboard kind of thing that he was taken off of the field, and it was a very freak kind of injury and accident, but it sounds like he could be back this season, but they're obviously going to be very cautious because it was pretty serious.
Yeah, it was. Like you said, it was a freak thing. It was over on the sidelines. It was just kind of like, it's just one of those things. It's like when you see someone not stretch it off, but like in a backboard, like you kind of hope like everything's okay.
Yeah. So the Jets situation with Hassan Reddick, there was rumors that they might trade him back to the Eagles, but per NFL rules, it's not possible. A team cannot trade a player and then reacquire him via trade until 2 years have passed. So Reddick won't be heading back to the Eagles. It's so strange.
Yeah.
Like, want to be with the Jets and then he hasn't played at all. And, I mean, you're just losing money, every week because he's not playing. And the Jets are losing games. And we still don't know if they're going to trade him anywhere or not. But it's such a weird situation.
It's a weird situation because Hassan has said, like, I want to go back to the Eagles. And now it's like, even if you wanted to, you can't.
They're gonna have to cut him.
Yeah, they're gonna have to cut. Yeah, but again, if you cut him, it's a messy and a weird situation.
So Packers have a bunch of wide receivers, and Christian Watson is one of them. It looked like a serious.
It looked really bad.
Could have been a serious injury when he got
folded
like a paper clip. It's a high ankle sprain. But he will not be landing on injured reserve.
Yeah.
It sounds like he could be back in a week or two, which is really good news. He has dealt with different injuries throughout his career, but whenever he's healthy, he's great. So I'm glad that it's not a serious injury because it looked really, really bad live.
It didn't look like an ankle injury at first.
It looked like it could have been his entire leg.
It looked bad.
Yeah, so it's good that he's not going to be out for too long. Eagles wide receiver / punt returner Pertain Covey, he told reporters that he suffered a broken scapula, and he's expected to be sidelined for 6 weeks. So that is nothing easy to heal from, but back for a playoff push. So
yeah, hopefully they're still in contention, but again, we'll see what's up with the Eagles. But yeah, kind of a big blow for their offense. It just kind of still no identity for them,
especially their special teams. Yeah. The NFL suspended Mike Hall Jr. Of the Cleveland Browns 5 games without pay. He violated the personal conduct policy. He has been on the commissioner exempt list since the beginning of the regular season. He was not eligible to play in the club's first 4 games. He will be eligible for reinstatement on Monday, October 7th. And then Von Miller of the Buffalo Bills is suspended 4 games without pay for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. He will be eligible for reinstatement on October 28th, following the Bills' Week 8 game against the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Von Miller one is pretty big. He's one of the stars in the league. Mike Hall Jr. one, now we know when he'll be back at least. But yeah, I mean, these are...
Especially, the Von Miller one, I mean, that's a really big blow to that whole team that kind of looked really good, and then they got thrashed by the Ravens, and now this happens with Von Miller, so we'll see how much it affects them.
Yeah. So now for the last of the weekly news. So last week we talked about the Raiders and how Antonio Pierce talked about business decisions, that players are making business decisions and the team is going to be making business decisions going forward. And it was such a weird, cryptic kind of statement to make. And then we see last night after the Monday Night Football game that Antonio Pierce liked a post regarding that Devontae Adams had played his last snap as a Raider. Then Devontae Adams, who is on Kay Adams' Up and Adams show every single week, he was asked about, his situation with the Raiders and that post and just the whole situation. And he said, all I can control is what I can control, and I'm just going to control from, after this podcast, then whatever next steps from here. And it was just very, very strange. Everyone was like, yeah, this doesn't sound good. He said he hadn't heard from Antonio Pierce, that he was hoping to hear from Antonio Pierce, but it was just very weird, very non-committal to the Raiders. And obviously, whenever they lose, he's unhappy. He had a weird injury show up on Friday where then he ended up not playing this game that the Raiders did end up winning against the Browns. But it's just been very, very strange. Then officially, it was around 3:15 Central Time. He did request a trade from the Raiders. The Jets, the Steelers, and the Chiefs have all reportedly reached out. We also are expecting to hear that the Ravens will, as well as possibly the Rams, depending on how serious their wide receiver injuries are. But it's such a strange situation because he wanted to go to the Raiders to play with Derek Carr. They get rid of him. Then he wanted Antonio Pierce to be the head coach. And then there was friction. And I don't want to say he's a diva or anything like that, but he doesn't seem very content ever. And yeah, I mean, I know you're assuming that he's going to be a Jet.
That's just I think if you watch the Receiver documentary on Netflix, you can see how, Devontae, because before Pierce, Pierce was an intern, he loved Pierce early on. He gets very high and very low. Very high when they win, very low when they lose. And it's more of not... I think he would be okay if he had 8 catches for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns and they lost. He'd be okay with that. It's a lot, I wouldn't say self-centered, but it's I wouldn't say he's a diva.
He wants his catches.
But he wants his catches, and I think why I think he's going to go to the Jets is because I think he knows, and Rodgers knows, he will get those there. But I think that part of it too is that I think in the back of his mind, even though Rodgers isn't there, I think he regrets leaving Green Bay.
Yeah, I think part of him regrets leaving Green Bay. I think also part of him is frustrated with the organization that I feel like he didn't think they were fully honest with him about Carr and their commitment to Carr.
They screwed him over in that part. I think
Possibly,
they really did.
But again, it is a business where in the end it's hey, you're making your decision. You can't. You get paid a lot of money. Nothing's guaranteed, you know. And you're getting paid a lot of money. But yeah, I mean, I think the whole Devontae Adams thing, if he does go to he needs to think about his career long term. How long is he planning on playing for? Because Rodgers is not going to be around for a lot of many more years. So you go to the Jets. Are you signing? What are you wanting to be there for 2 years and hoping that you're playing with Rodgers and then what? Then you're going to leave again and try to go find somebody else, Or do you go to somebody like the Ravens with Lamar, or the Chargers with Herbert, or the Chiefs with Mahomes, where they're going to be there for a while? They've paid their guy. They're sticking around. Where you can count on that, develop that, and be there your whole career, Yeah. So it's really a fascinating storyline to watch. But the Raiders at least sound like they're going to grant him a trade, so it doesn't sound like this is going to take a long time.
Yeah, I know it did come out. I don't know if it was Rappaport or Schefter. Someone said that his contract is really technically 1 year, so that gives some flexibility there. And then I believe the rumor also was that the Raiders want a second rounder and more.
And more
So, I mean, rightfully so. It's Devontae. It's one of the top guys in the league. So, again, we'll see how quickly this kind of unfolds and how aggressive certain teams get on wanting Devontae on their team.
Yeah, I think the Steelers and the Falcons could both be really, really interesting.
There's a lot of teams that could be very interesting. But I do expect the Jets to be very aggressive because Rodgers is whatever. Again, Rodgers kind of runs things there, I do believe. But yeah, again, only time will tell, and we'll see.
Yeah. Well, that's it for the weekly news. Do you want to just jump right into Week 5 preview?
Yeah, we can jump right into previews.
All right. So Thursday night we have a really good game. I'm so excited for it. It's Buccaneers Falcons, and it's in Atlanta, division game. I can't wait for this. Two teams that I truly love. Like,
Yeah.
I love watching them play. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I got Buccaneers 31-23 over the Falcons. I think I love watching Baker play football just because he plays with such a joy too. It's like and like he'll lose one week and he's just back throwing for 300 yards the next.
How fun was it seeing him ball out in front of Tom Brady? That was so special.
But yeah, I think the Buccaneers win this one just because I don't know. I love Baker. I would love to see him win the Super Bowl. I think it'd be so cool.
Yeah, and I think this game is really going to come down to both defenses actually because I think if both offenses are given the ball, down by 4 with a minute and a half left, I think that offense will go down and win the game.
Yeah.
I think it's more about which defense can stop these offenses who have been pretty good. You can see a lot of talent. But yeah, I do think the Buccaneers have a little bit more consistency in their team and in their offense. So I would lean Bucks. Jets Vikings. This is a really interesting one. It's an overseas game, and Aaron Rodgers is very familiar with the Vikings. Vikings are very familiar with him, and the Vikings are looking good. The Jets are not, but it's Aaron Rodgers, and it's overseas, and I think that's where the Vikings drop their first L. I don't think Rodgers is going to come up with that game.
Yeah, I won't say my score prediction, but I do think the Jets win this one.
Yeah.
So.
The Panthers Bears. This is an interesting one, and this is when we thought we were going to get the former number 1 overall pick with the current one, but we're not. So we're getting the Panthers with Andy Dalton and Bears with Caleb Williams, and I could go either way on this. I really could, but I want to lean Panthers.
I'm leaning Panthers just because that Bears offense just doesn't look. It's just it's sputtering right now. It really is because there's no. I mean, I think once they can find that groove, that good balance between the run and the pass, then Caleb will get better. But I think it's a 20-14 Panthers win. But again, I think either way, it could go either way. I think if it could maybe turn ugly for either team. It's such a weird game because both teams at times look better than what I think they have looked so far this season.
I think it'll come down to the turnover battle.
Yeah.
Whoever takes better care of the ball is going to win the game, truly. And I don't know, the reason I'm leaning Panthers is also similar because the Bears, their offensive scheme or their lack of scheme is really concerning, and it's concerning for any team to have kind of no identity on offense, but when you have a rookie quarterback who should be a star, or who has a high ceiling and you have a lot of weapons around him and you're just kind of dead out there or very inconsistent, that just shouldn't be happening, and so coaching is definitely a problem over there. Browns Commanders. The Browns need to win, but the Commanders are humming right now, and it's in Washington.
Yeah, I got Commanders 21-13 over the Browns. I know 21 says I think that's a low number for the Commanders, but only because it's that Browns defense. But I don't know, that Browns offense doesn't look good. And I don't think it doesn't take a lot of points to beat the Browns. It really doesn't.
It doesn't. And I think the Commanders pull this one off. Yeah. I do. And the Commanders have shown that they can win in different ways. And the Browns haven't, you know? And so, I'm going to give this one to the Commanders, too, especially because it's a home game for them. Mm-hmm. They're going to have the energy of that crowd. And then if the Browns do lose, we're really going to start hearing hot seat, I think, for Stefanski. Yeah. Dolphins Patriots.
This is going to be an ugly game. I got Patriots 14-13 over the Dolphins. I think if you like defense and you don't like offense, you can watch this game and enjoy it because I don't think either offense is going to look good.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. It's the Dolphins are better than what they showed. I think, especially with Tyler Huntley, I think they can do a lot better.
It's bad.
Yeah, I don't even know where to go with this one, but I could see this being a field goal heavy game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd lean Patriots because I think their defense is pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
Colts Jaguars. The Jags are 0-4. They cannot go 0-5, and
I think they do.
You think they do?
Yeah, 2016 Colts. I think that that Jags. I do believe the Jags split the season series with the Colts, but I don't know, they look bad. Maybe this is where they turn around, but that Colts, I don't know. We'll see with what's up with Richardson, but Joe Flacco looks pretty decent.
I don't necessarily think that the Jags turn it around in this game. Like, I don't think they win and they're gonna go on this winning streak necessarily. But I'm gonna give this one to them. I'm gonna give them
They
this
looked
win.
pretty good against the Texans.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them this win.
Okay.
Hesitantly, I'm giving them this win. Maybe that should be my bold prediction. The Jags win.
You win, yeah.
Bills Texans. This is a fascinating game, and I'm giving it to the Bills. That is strong. I won't talk too much on this.
Yeah, I won't. Yeah, I won't either. I have the Bills winning this one. My predictions for this one too.
Ravens Bengals. This is really exciting. Division game. I don't know why it's a freaking noon game. This should be America's game of the week or Sunday night or something. What the heck are we doing here?
I got Ravens 28-17 over the Bengals. The Ravens, I think they're still going to be humming from last week, and that Bengals. I mean, they beat they beat the Panthers. The Bengals did, but I still think they're not competitive with the Ravens.
Yeah. I'm gonna not talk much on this game either because I have a bold prediction. Raiders Broncos. This is another division game, and who knows? The Raiders, they're dealing with distractions.
Yeah.
With the whole Devontae thing, the Broncos just came off of a sloppy win against the Jets. Who do you got?
I got Broncos 24-20. I don't know. I think it could go either way. It could be low scoring. It could be higher scoring. But yeah, I think there are a lot of internal things going on with the Raiders that I don't know how focused they're going to be.
I'm picking Broncos because I think Gardner Minshew is going to have 2 turnovers in this game. I do. I think the Broncos defense is going to be good at forcing those turnovers, and Minshew just came off of a clean game. I don't think that's going to happen 2 weeks in a row. Cardinals 49ers. This is very interesting too. Like, there's so many fascinating matchups here.
I got
Am I crazy to go Cardinals?
No, I have Cardinals winning 24-23. I don't know. The Cardinals, they're a weird team because like they look really good that one week, and then it's like
they're up and down.
They're really up and down. And I think Kyler and Marvin Harrison need to continuously get on the same page, and once they do, then they'll be better.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals win this game. I think it's down to the wire. Like, I think this is a really good game, the whole game. But yeah, I think the Cardinals are going to win like 24-16. I think the Cardinals defense kind of shows up. I think Brock Purdy throws a costly late interception. And he's been great this season, but yeah. Giants Seahawks. I know you are just really counting down the hours for this one. This is what you're most excited for.
I think I have the Seahawks winning 21-14, but I think like at times that Seahawks offense looks good, but just I don't know. I think they might struggle a little bit, but the Giants offense I still don't think they'll do that well. But yeah, the Seahawks win this one.
Yeah, I'm picking Seahawks because I believe way more in McDonald than I do in Brian Dable.
Yeah,
that's where I'm deciding that. Packers Rams.
I got Packers 24-14. I just think the Rams are really injured. I think the Love is gonna knock off more of that rust that was there this past Sunday. But yeah, I think McKinney maybe McKinney has a 5th interception. He's got 4 in 4 games.
Yeah, that's been crazy.
But yeah, I just think that I think it's going to be the only way the Rams win this game is if McVay massively outcoaches LaFleur, and I don't see that.
No, we haven't seen that. Yeah, I think the Packers win this game. I don't want to say like with ease necessarily, but they do win it comfortably. Yeah, I think Jordan Love and the offense is going to really be humming, and I mean the Packers defense has been impressive. They obviously weren't in the first half, but I think Halfley is not going to let that slide. Yeah. I think this is going to be a good week of practice for them, and yeah, I mean the Rams just have so many injuries. This would be a much different game if they were healthy, but
Packers were injured this past Sunday too in their secondary. So.
Yeah, but they're just not. The Rams aren't healthy at all. Cowboys Steelers. This is a classic matchup right here. Yeah. Historic. But yeah, I had Steelers winning this game. It's down. Oh, that was also a thing that I was waiting to talk about to the Steelers game. Russell Wilson is going to have a heavier workload at practice this week, but it still sounds like Fields is going to start.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's really hard. It's hard to pull Fields when he's playing well. I get they lost against the Colts, but I wouldn't say he played horrible.
Yeah. No, he didn't. I mean, he was the best fantasy.
Yeah. And I think I have the Steelers winning this game. I have my bold prediction, but I think they win.
I think the Cowboys' defensive injuries is really going to hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think T.J. Watt's going to get to Dak a few times. And then last but not least, Saints Chiefs. I'm not gonna say too much because I have a prediction for this.
Yeah, I
game.
think the Chiefs comfortably win this. Win this one. I don't know. The Saints just don't. I don't know. I think Chiefs look more like themselves, but I don't think the Saints match up well.
Okay, so what are for your bold predictions?
My first one, I said the Jets comfortably beat the Vikings. I have them 31-14.
Wow.
I think. I mean, I don't know. The Vikings. It's a London game. It's kind of weird for both teams adjusting to that. But I think the Jets look better. Rodgers looks better. So that's my first one.
Okay. For mine, the first one comes in that Bills Texans game, and I think Josh Allen has the best game this of the season for like by far. I think Josh Allen's going off. I also think James Cook is gonna have a really good game. Like I just think the Bills offense is gonna be humming more than ever. I This is where the bold part comes in. I think the Bills put up over 40 points.
I'm close. I do believe that Josh Allen will have the best game easily so far. I think they win. Bills win 35-31. I think Josh Allen has 5 passing touchdowns. I think, yeah, I don't know. It's just waiting for Allen to just get frustrated and just have one of those 305 touchdowns. Not one of those, but like, yeah, I think he's just gonna have a very, very good game.
Yeah.
My next one, my last one is I think the Steelers pick off Dak 3 times. I think Dak looks bad. The Steelers defense looks good. I wouldn't say how bold it is, just because the Steelers defense is good, but yeah, I think they get to Dak 3 times.
It's funny. I always watch games with my dad, and we root almost always for the same team, as each other in the game. But we literally started getting in like an argument about the Steelers Cowboys game because I was like, "Yeah, I'm rooting Steelers," and he was like, oh. Like he was so disappointed because the Steelers are like his least favorite team. I'm like, what the heck? And I was like, well, sorry, I grew up in a different era of football than you. And it was just so funny. But we're talking about like the historic matchups, and they've played in a Super Bowl against each other, So this will be another one for the books. But yeah, I think the Steelers win. So I still have 2 bold predictions left. Ravens Bengals. I think Lamar Jackson has a perfect passer rating in this game.
Okay.
I think he really dials it up, and I know this is a good competition. This is a division game, but yeah, the Bengals still don't scare me whatsoever. And I think that I don't know. I know 1-4 sounds really bad, but that's what I think the Bengals will be. And then my other bold prediction: I think the Saints beat the Chiefs.
Okay.
I'm having the Saints beat the Chiefs, and I think that Alvin Kamara has a really solid game. I think he has 2 rushing touchdowns and then 1 receiving touchdown in this game.
Yeah, I hope so. I really do, because I think the Chiefs need to, for not playing well. I think they need to. I think they need to lose a football game for not playing as well.
After all the injuries they've been through, and you're still hating on them. No, I think the Saints kind of get back on track to humming more on offense than they have, like as they did earlier in the season. But yeah, I think there's a lot of great matchups here, and there could be a lot of upsets in this week too, which is really fun.
Yeah.
And again, we still don't know a lot. But we do have our first bye weeks. We have them here. So the Eagles, Lions, Chargers, and Titans all have week 5 byes. For some teams, that's helpful. Like Will Levis, he doesn't have to be out for a week because he
doesn't have to be out there playing either.
Yeah. I guess that's true. And then Chargers, Herbert gets to be healthier. Joe Alt gets to be healthier. So, it's kind of good for them. The Eagles, they look like a mess, so they'll have an extra week to figure things out. And the Lions, they're coming off of a good win. I think it's the worst bye week for them in the sense that they're kind of feeling like they're in that groove now. And then it's the bye week, which can be a letdown, but Dan Campbell's a great coach. I'm sure they'll use it well. And just some rest is nice. Again, early bye weeks are difficult, but if they can get on a groove in week 6 and and continue through the season, then they're good. But that's it for our week 4 preview and our week 4 review and our week 5 preview. So yeah, anything else to add?
I think that's it. I think like I said earlier, the season's moving too fast.
Absolutely.
So I'll be waking up early for the London game, 8:30.
Yeah.
I'll be up, but yeah. So week 5, like you said, first bye weeks for some teams. So for those fans of those bye weeks, and enjoy some more football.
Absolutely. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.